Welcome to Beyond the Corporate Mask with Suzanne Mau-Asam and Emma ten Veen, a podcast with honest conversations about work, presence, and the parts of ourselves we've been told to hide. Picture this. You're walking into a big meeting, and before you even sit down, you already feel yourself shrinking a little. You didn't plan to do so, you didn't decide to do that, it just happened. And that's not just nerves, that is your shaping story. The invisible ways your past experiences live on in your body. And today we're talking about how to notice it and how to begin changing it. Welcome to Beyond the Corporate Mask, a podcast powered by Doors Open, Institute for Corporate Sociology. My name is Emma.
And I'm Suzanne. And together we will explore what it really means to lead with presence, integrity, and the parts of yourself that make you truly human, not just professional.
In today's episode, we're talking about something that lives underneath the corporate mask, and that is the shaping story. It's the invisible thread between your past and how you show up today. Now, let's get into it. So, Susanna, last time we talked about the corporate mask and why so many of us end up wearing one without even realizing it.
Yeah.
And today I would like to go a layer deeper into something that we already briefly mentioned. We briefly teased it at the end of last episode. It's all about your shaping story.
Yeah.
Susanna, maybe you can walk us through it. What exactly is a shaping story and why does it matter so much when we talk about leadership and presence and the corporate mask? Yeah. How does it all tie together?
Yeah, how does this tie together? We all carry stories that shaped us. And what I mean with that is that we all have life experiences that, did something to us.
Right.
Even when we don't realize it. These are, for example, moments that we learned it was safer to stay quiet, to not speak up, or better to make yourself a little bit small, to hide yourself. Or also the other way around, that you overcompensated to, for example, be very present and very loud. And these are moments that don't just stay in your mind. No, they really, as we call it, live in your body. They're visible in your shape, in your body. And that is exactly what a shaping story is. The patterns that you carry that once helped you survive, but now they might hold you back. And maybe it is also helpful if I share a little bit of an example from my own life, one of my own shaping stories. This moment happened when I was back in high school, and I think I was 14, 15 maybe. And there were some girls that at first I thought were my friends. But one day they locked me into the corner of the bathroom, and they really pushed me into a corner.
Oh.
And yeah.
It's a dreadful time, high school.
Yes, it is. And I honestly don't even remember exactly what they said or what the moment was or why this exactly happened. But what I do remember is that my body at that moment decided, I need to stay small. I don't want to be visible. Blend in so you don't get hurt again. And
right.
Later, I realized that I carried that shape, so that shape of staying small, don't be visible, blend in, fit in, that I carried that shape for years into university, into my first jobs, and I did not even realize that I did it. So that just became how I showed up. And this is the thing with shaping stories. They don't just only live in your memories. They live in your posture, how you breathe, your tone of voice, in how you show up when the pressure is on.
Right. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Susanna. It's a really powerful reminder and also a bit of a painful reminder, I think, for all of us, how early and how deeply those shaping moments really settle into your body and into your shape that you carry with you for the rest of your life sometimes. And honestly, and we touched upon this last episode, it starts a lot earlier than we oftentimes realize, because from the moment that we're born, we're being shaped by the world around us, right? Our parents have expectations from us, our teachers, society, the workplaces we enter, school, all telling us in big and small ways how we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to look like and how we're supposed to behave.
Yeah.
Right. And I think over time, all of those messages, then they don't just live in our heads. They, as you said, they start living in our bodies too then, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's good that you mentioned that early on, from the minute that we're born, we are shaped by the world around us. So I shared this one shaping story, a defining moment for myself in high school. It was indeed, like you said, a painful moment, but it is not necessarily only painful moments. Huh? So indeed, what you're saying, your parents, your teachers, society, they all, shape you in a certain way. And so I think that's a good thing to also mention. It's not only those defining painful moments, it's just everyday life.
Right.
And the thing is that our bodies remember long after, our minds have already moved on. For example, I've already moved on from high school, but my body still remembers that.
Yeah.
So you might not consciously think about that moment in school when you got laughed at, or the way you spoke up or something like that, but your body still remembers. It remembers by, for example, tightening your throat when you try to raise your hand in a meeting, or maybe you don't even raise your hand at all because you don't want to be visible.
Yeah.
So these patterns get wired in through your muscles, your breath, your posture. It's like your body builds a sort of shape to help you stay safe. And the funny thing is that these shapes automatically show up without you even realizing it, especially at moments when you feel a lot of pressure or when you're stressed, or then your body automatically goes back to those shapes that have kept you safe once.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's almost like a protective pattern, almost a primal protective pattern that your body has adopted, because it helped you in that specific situation, in that moment. It's what kept you safe, and then years later, your body will just retract back into that same protective shape.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that back then it was a very good strategy. It was a very good strategy, now that I think about it, to be a little bit less visible, etc. But later, it's not. It did not help me.
No, exactly. So it's really, these shapings are really not just coming from big changes, big life moments.
No.
It comes from so many different places, and it could be the smallest interaction could already trigger something like that, right?
Yeah. It's really layered. It comes from, for example, your personal experiences, like, for example, the bullying, but also from your family, how you were raised, what was important in your family, your culture, the schools you went to, and the rules that were alive there. But also the bigger messages that we hear in society. And for example, what you see in movies or in commercials on TV. This all sends you messages about, this is how you should behave, this is how you should perform. And when I work with leaders or individuals, and even organizations, because organizations also have a shape. We sometimes call that culture, but shape goes a little bit deeper than only culture. But then I often look at the 6 sides of shaping, 6 areas where your patterns and your shape is usually rooted.
Right, right. Can you walk us through them?
Yes, yes. So the first one is really your personal experiences. So, for example, you start a new job, and the first time you speak up in a meeting, you got shut down. Well, that then leads to, okay, I better stay quiet and I don't speak up. Then that first shaping starts.
Right.
So, really, the first one is your personal experiences. And then the second one, we already mentioned this, is your family and your close relationships. For example, maybe you grew up in a home where there was a lot of conflict, or for example, conflict was avoided. You don't talk about everything is nice and happy. We don't talk about problems. Or, for example, where achievement was everything. Well, that also shapes you and also how you show up later in life.
Yeah, I really recognize this one. I come from a family where there were always debates going on, and they could maybe not even about big emotional things, about anything small. Everyone always wanted to be right. Yeah. So I knew if I wanted to share my opinion about something, doesn't matter what, all of my opinions would immediately get tackled, get questioned, get debated. And I knew I would end up in a debate no matter what I said. And because of that, I now find it very difficult to have, for example, talk about politics with others, because I have this internal pattern where I'm like, oh, if I share my opinion, I'm going to get attacked. People are going to disagree with me and they're going to want to start a debate. So this one really resonates with me. I really recognize this one.
Yeah. And the funny thing here is with you and this example that you mentioned, maybe you have, and I'm sure you have really good things to say about politics, and your opinion really does matter. So your shaping holds you back from sharing your whole true self and your opinions and your ideas.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
So the third one is your community and culture. So, for example, the neighborhood that you grew up in. How was the interaction with your neighbors? Was there a lot of interaction, or was it everybody, very in their own houses and not connecting with other people? But also, for example, the culture that you grew up in. What were the traditions, the rituals that you celebrated in your culture? That really shapes you and also determines a little bit, what is important and how do you then show up?
Right.
And then the fourth one is the institutions that you were part of, like the schools or the workplaces that told you what do you need to do or how do you need to behave to be successful. Or, for example, I worked with one of my coachees, and she grew up in a family where the mother worked in the military. So there was a lot of hierarchy, rules, etc. And that really shaped her.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I remember the high school that I went to. It was quite prestigious school. And I remember there was a lot of competition when it came to exams. So whenever the grades would come out, it was very normal for our whole class to start comparing who had the higher grade.
Yeah.
And I remember even one year someone made a ranking of the class as to who performed the best that year, all the way to who performed the worst.
Yeah.
And I was always in the middle, which was fine for me. But I do remember that every single time exam grades would come out, I would have this little feeling of like, oh God, I hope I'm at the upper half of the class.
Yeah.
Because otherwise people will look at me as if I'm stupid. You know, I can only imagine the people who ranked last, how they must have felt.
Yeah. And how they show up today, yeah?
And how they show up today.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing is that you mentioned this grading system in your high school, but this is still happening in a lot of organizations, with the performance reviews and who gets a bonus and who doesn't get a bonus and how are you ranked. So it's still alive in organizations.
Right.
Yeah, and then we have the fifth one, and that is social norms and stereotypes. And we touched upon this already a little bit, but this is really about, okay, what are the norms and rules that live in society? The unspoken rules about who's allowed to be loud, for example, who's expected to stay quiet. And also here, of course, this is related to gender and certain cultural backgrounds. But for example, also, what are the norms and rules about when are you seen as being professional, or when are you seen as being a manager? We still have, for example, the stereotype, think manager, think male, and all the traits and characteristics that come with it. So, also these societal norms, stereotypes, biases, that really shapes how you show up.
Right.
And then, the last one, the sixth one, that is about your connection to something bigger. And what we mean with that is religion, for example. So religion can really shape how you show up in the world, your spirituality, but also maybe the landscape that is important to you, and that gives you a sense of belonging that is bigger than only yourself. That can also really determine how you show up in the world.
Wow. Yeah. I think when you lay it out like this, with all of these different layers, it makes you realize that there's a lot more to it than maybe the eye meets at first. Now I can really see how much we're shaped, on how many different levels we're being shaped from very early onward without even realizing it. And and like we said, it's not just big dramatic changes. It all comes from those small everyday messages, everyday conversations that you have with the people around you. That were being shaped to such an extent. It really makes me think of that metaphor about a frog in the boiling water, right?
Yeah.
When you toss a frog into a boiling hot pan of water, it will jump right out because it's too hot. But if you put the frog in the water while it's warming up, it will adapt to its surrounding temperature. So it won't even realize that it's boiling, that it's in a temperature that it can't take, that it can't handle. And this is exactly like that. From a very, very early age, you don't notice how much the heat is rising around you, how much you're being shaped into someone that might not be fully you, until you've already been shaped by it. Until it's already too late. So
Well, it's not too late, because that's why we are here. So
thankfully,
we will support you in how you can change this. But it's good to start with being aware of your own shaping story, to understand why do you react in a certain way, and to see where it comes from. Because then at that moment, when you are aware, then you can decide how you want to show up, and then you can change, and then you can choose how you want to show up. And it's not only, because when we were talking about this, I thought it's not only about understanding your own shaping story, but also understanding and asking questions about somebody else's shaping story, because then you really can start having the real connection.
Yeah, you can really start understanding each other and understanding each other's context.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see it now in my own life, and I think I can even recognize it in the smallest things. And I think a lot of people a lot of listeners will recognize this, but I apologize a lot for a lot of things that might not even need an apology. For example, in meetings, when I say something that someone else disagrees with, my first reaction will be to apologize, even when I haven't done anything wrong. But at some point, that just becomes normal. You're just apologizing for everything.
Yeah.
That's an example of a shaping and how that outs itself at work, right?
Yeah. And it's good that you're aware of it, because and the funny thing is that you're now also laughing about it, so that's also a good thing, that you recognize it, you're aware, and you laugh a little bit about it, because again,
it's silly.
and no, it's not silly. It's something that has shaped you. So again, we've mentioned this already before. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I notice this now because I'm actively thinking about all of this and we're having this conversation. But maybe for our listeners, how can someone start noticing where they've been shaped? How can they trace it back to all of these different sites? What's something practical they can do?
Yeah. So I think the first and most important thing is that you don't judge yourself. You don't start to trying to fix something, because then you're always in conflict with yourself. This is something that has brought you a long way. It was helpful. And now you notice, okay, maybe it's not helpful at this moment anymore, but it has done some good things in the past. So the first thing I think that's important is to not judge yourself, and also not say, oh, I need to fix myself, there's something wrong with me. No, I think the first important thing is to just notice. Like you said, I notice now that I apologize a lot. And that's why I said, okay, you can laugh about it a little bit, and not be judgmental, but to say, okay, I'm doing it again. Just notice. And then when you notice, also ask yourself, where do I feel the need to do that? So for example, like you said, where do I feel the need to apologize? Where do I feel that in my body? And sometimes by doing that, you also start making yourself small. So ask yourself, where do I feel the need to make myself small? So, and then turn to your body, because that always tells you the truth. So, do I notice tightness in my chest, or is it? Am I holding my breath? Or, for example, do you feel you're shrinking yourself or making yourself smaller? Or maybe, for example, you make yourself bigger to overcompensate, to be louder. Are you, for example, clenching your fist before you say something? These are all clues. It's really about becoming more aware of your body and what's happening there, because the body always remembers what the mind forgets. So this is a little bit of your gateway to understanding more of your shaping story. The gateway is through your body.
Right. Yeah. I really love what you're saying about not judging yourself for the things, for the patterns that you've got in you, and just noticing them, because I think that's such an important reminder that it's not about fixing everything overnight. No. Any behavioral patterns that you've got that you might want to let go of, it can be frustrating, because these things take time. Reshaping ourselves, it takes time, right? It's not just about having one breakthrough that fixes everything. It takes practice, right? It takes practice. And Suzanne, you shared a theory with me once that really stuck with me, that I think is quite applicable here. I'm talking about the 300 and the 3,000 repetitions.
Yeah.
Could you maybe explain that theory a little bit for our listeners?
Yeah. And maybe to start with that, the behavior that you're showing now, or the automatic responses or the patterns that you have at this moment, they also did not happen overnight. You did that a lot of times and then it became a pattern. And this 300-3000 rule, this is a somatic principle, a very fundamental principle that we use in embodied leadership. And interestingly enough, it comes from martial arts. But it is just like with learning anything new, it takes repetition. You don't master driving a car or playing the piano just in one try, right? So you need to do this multiple times. And what we say is 300 repetitions build a new muscle memory, a new bodily memory, and 3000 repetitions, then it becomes your new automatic response. And then you start embodying it without thinking. So you don't have to consciously think yourself into it. No, then it becomes your embodied response. And to put this a little bit into perspective, I mentioned driving the car, but it is also, for example, when you learned how to ride a bike, the first few times, you're a little bit clunky and you're conscious of every move. But around repetition 300, so to say, it becomes a little bit more natural to you. And then at 3000 times, you don't think about it anymore and it becomes your natural automatic response. And this also applies to, so it's not only about driving a car or learning how to ride a bike or how to play the piano. No, this also applies to leadership moments. So centering yourself before a difficult conversation, or speaking up in a meeting when you're nervous, or staying present in high-stake moments. All this requires repetition for it to become more natural to you.
I really like this. I really enjoy this explanation of things and how you use driving a car or playing a musical instrument to paint a picture of how reshaping works, because it takes a little bit of pressure off, you know? It's not just like having one single eye-opening moment. It's almost about creating muscle memory, you know? Because when you start learning how to play the piano, right? Nobody expects you to immediately be able to play Mozart's pieces the next day.
No, exactly.
It takes time.
But the funny thing is that when we follow a leadership course and when you come back at work, then people expect you, okay, now she's changed or now she can do this or that. And that's not the case. You need to practice and practice and practice for it to become more natural to you.
Right. Yeah, it's like it's not like after one piano class you're going to be able to play the piano perfectly.
No.
It takes more practice than that. And I think within the context of leadership trainings, for example, people look at it in a different way, but it's actually the exact same thing. It's the same process.
Yeah, and this is what we mean by when we say, okay, it needs to become embodied. It needs to live in your body for it to be an automatic response. It needs to be embodied. And then you make impact.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. In last episode, we did a bit of a mini practice. We did a full centering exercise in which we tapped into the different directions, the different layers of centering. I remember it was a length, width, and depth. And for today, I would like to just focus on one very powerful layer. And that's the last one I just mentioned. It's depth. And Suzanne, would you maybe guide us through this layer and see how it taps into the shaping story, what we can do, the 300-3000 repetition rule? What's something practical we can take away from today?
Yeah. Okay, of course. And this practice that we're about to start really links with your own personal shaping story. So wherever you are, take a moment to pause. And you can do this sitting or standing. But put your feet hip-width apart. Make length, as if something is pulling you up. And then start breathing from your center. And your center is 2 inches below your belly button. And if it's difficult to breathe from your center, put your hand on it and start breathing towards your hand. And then pull up your shoulders, let them drop, unclench your jaw. And then let's recall what's behind you. So first start feeling your back. Maybe you can feel your spine, the fabric of your clothes. Feel if it is warm or cold. And then see what's behind you. Your upbringing, your teachers, your mentors, those moments that shaped you. And then start to embrace the parts of you that were once hidden, or maybe you pushed away. Your background, your resilience, your culture, maybe some quirks that you have. Embrace that, because those are your superpowers. Not despite of it, but because of it. And then when you embrace them, let's move them forward. Move them through your body, from your back all the way to the front, and put them in front of you. Look at them. Look at your superpowers. And then ask yourself, what am I longing for? And how do I want to show up today? Take a moment to collect your thoughts and your feelings. And this practice, it might feel subtle, but over time, this can change everything. And remember, 300 reps to build a new shape and 3,000 to embody it. And this was already one of them.
Yeah.
How was it for you, Emma?
Yeah, really nice. Obviously, I know a bit about this practice, so I've done it a few times already, but every time I do it, I'm amazed by the perspective it gives, because it really allows you to just take that step back, really look at, what do I stand for? What do I long for? What am I working towards? And it almost gives you a mini boost in that sense of purpose, if that makes sense. And for me, that really triggers like this drive inside of me to just keep going, even when things get a little bit difficult. And what I really love about this exercise, because it's, you know, it's very short, it's very straightforward, and no one can tell that you're doing this because you can literally just do this on the spot while you're behind your laptop at work, or you know, no one can actually, no one will see you do this, no one will realize that you're doing this, but after you've done it, they will feel the difference in your presence.
You immediately feel the shift in yourself, but also how people respond to you. Definitely.
I think that's brilliant. Now, Susanna, what's one thing that someone can take away from this episode and try out this week?
So as for all somatic practices, you need to do this repeatedly. So I've just explained the 3,000 times. Well, this applies to that as well. So what you can start doing this week, and maybe you need to do this when you brush your teeth, because hopefully everybody does this at least twice a day. So when you're brushing your teeth, have a quick check-in in your body. So notice, how's my breath? Is there any tension in my body? And then quickly do a short centering. So put your feet hip-width apart, and then especially focus on what is behind you. So feel your past, your history, your mentors, your defining moments, and then embrace your superpowers. Embrace them bring them forward through your body, and then really feel, okay, what am I longing for? How do I want to show up today? And yeah, like I said, when you do that every time you brush your teeth, well, then you're quickly at that 303,000 times.
Right. That's wonderful. This conversation just really shows that your body holds your history, but it also holds your possibility.
Yes, exactly. Because, like I said, sometimes we feel like, oh yeah, I need to hide these parts of myself. But like I said, they are your superpowers. And yeah, it's a chance to shape your new story.
Exactly. There are so many things possible. And this week, we invite you all to notice, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Where are you still being shaped by your old stories? And what new shape are you ready to step into? Don't forget to subscribe to Beyond the Corporate Mask on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you like to tune in. And please follow Doors Open, Institute for Corporate Sociology, for more practices and perspectives. Because the future of leadership isn't just strategic, it's human, embodied, and true. You've been listening to Beyond the Corporate Mask. Remember, your body has the answers. So let's start unpacking who you are and who you're ready to become.